What's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, make sure you smash a like and make sure you subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV if you haven't done so already. And on Saturday, Chelsea take on Nottingham Forest at Stamford Bridge, looking to make it 3 wins in just over a week. It's been a long time since we've been able to say that. It's been a long time since we've had 3 wins to celebrate. So hopefully we can do that heading into the international break after this weekend's fixtures. Forest come to town having lost 2 games out of their 3, but only a point behind the Blues. Away record's not great, but we had a 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge last season, and they've got players that we are going to have to be wary of. Awoniyi, 7 games in a row he's scored, now chasing down Jamie Vardy's record of 11, so we are going to have to be careful. But to give us the lowdown on Forest, I'm like to be joined by Wolverine from Forest Fan TV. Mate, welcome back. Great to have you again for another season. Forest so far, you happy with what you've seen? Are you about where you expect to be, really?
Yeah, it's been on par, mate. I mean, we were expected to beat Sheffield United. We just about did. Last minute goal there. We're expected to lose to Arsenal and obviously Manchester United. So we are where we are currently. You'd say the points is on par. The performances, I think, surprisingly enough, we've been better away from home, especially than we were last season. At home, it's only been 1 game. We'll have to wait and see how it does it. But for me, it's been a little, I want to see a bit more progressive football at home, especially when we're playing the likes of Sheffield United, Burnley, etc. But yeah, so far, so good, so to speak, with Nottingham Forest. We are where we are. We did give Man United a run for their money, going 2-0 up in 4 minutes, which was just crazy. And against Arsenal, we had them panicking towards the end of that game when we got that goal back. They were even time wasting, which made me laugh. But yeah, to answer your question, mate, we are where we are and where we expected to be, really.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just want to take this moment to thank the sponsors of this video. This video is sponsored by BetMate, the home of social betting. With BetMate, you aren't betting against the bookies, you are taking on your mates. And one of the most popular games on the app is the full-time result. It is a social twist on an accumulator. Predict 10 results over the weekend. If you get 10 out of 10, you'll win 3 grand. If you don't get them all right, you can still win a share of 2 grand. I've entered myself. You can see my predictions if you enter yourself as well. So see if you can take me on, see if you can beat me. Guys, you can get £5 in free bets when you sign up using the code cftvyt. That's cftvyt. Link in the description to download the app, and please enter the full-time result and see how you get on, guys. It's £5 to enter, and you can win 3 grand. So yeah, see who's the best out of all your mates. So guys, make sure you hit that link in the chat, and the code is CFTV5 on sign up to win. To get £5 in free bets. But back to the video. Nottingham Forest transfer window. You guys are normally busy. It's not been quite as busy as last season. But what have you thought of the business so far? Are the areas been addressed that you've needed to address, or do you still think you need a little bit more with the last day or so to go?
I'd say they're being addressed with how I would describe it. It started off very slow. We brought in 3 players towards the start of the window. We had your old boy, Ola Aina, who has surprised a lot of us. I think he's been really good. Plays left back and can play right back as well. Really pacey. Brought in Matt Turner, the second choice at Arsenal. Again, he's impressed so far. Chris Wood, he's Chris Wood. He's from last season, but it was an obligation to buy. So he's come in. And then it's sped up since then, mate, especially over the last, I'd say, week and a half. He came in the first batch, and now we're seeing some really good signings. Murillo coming in from Corinthians, so I think you've been looking at 1 or 2 of their players as well. He's doing a medical at the moment. But the big one is Sangare. If we can land Sangare, and we've been chasing him all summer, and it is one of those names where you feel it's out of reach if you're being realistic. And it went quiet about a week or so ago. And today it's really ramping up, and Forest are pushing for it. Am I convinced he's going to come, mate? I don't want to jinx anything. I will dance around if he does come. I'm just not convinced that he wants to come to Forest. We may get the bid accepted like we did on Fofana, and it may fall through on his desires. But having said that, we got your boy Santos in already. And I'm really excited about him. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's in that position in the middle of the park that we are gagging for players for. He played yesterday against Burnley. He looks all right in a really, really poor performance from us yesterday. But yeah, there's still 2 or 3 more, I think, that will come in before the transfer deadline finishes. And a lot of them are linked to you guys. So we've got Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's looking close. And then your ex-player, Batman, old Michy Batshuayi.
Yeah,
So, there's
the Premier League winning goal under Antonio Conte, the goal that won the title at the Hawthorn. So he's etched in Chelsea folklore.
Yeah. But overall, ask me again tomorrow night, mate, once the window's finished, and I'll tell you how good or not it has been. CDM is a must for us, and potentially another winger and a centre-back, I would say.
I mean, in terms of expectations for this season, mate, obviously, Forest, you stayed up last season, first season back in the big time for a number of years. That was definitely the expectation. Of course, the expectation has got to be to stay in the league again. But are you looking for more on that? You're spending a lot of money. You're attracting a good caliber of player. Is there sort of aspirations sort of within the certain sections of the fan base, perhaps, where you think, do you know what? Yes, we want to stay up, but maybe we should be pushing a little bit more towards sort of the upper end of the mid-table, kind of around the 12th, 13th sort of mark. Do you think you've got those capabilities within you? I mean, what are the expectations this season?
Yeah, I think objective number 1 is obviously survive. But looking at the league this year, mate, it looks a lot weaker than it did last year with the likes of Sheffield United, Luton, even Burnley to a certain extent.
Everton as well, shocking.
Everton, Wolves haven't started off great. Bournemouth, even with all their new signings, haven't had the best start either. So I would say the general expectation, you can almost phase it. Phase 1, make sure we don't go down. Phase 2, can we finish higher than last season? But it doesn't really matter what I think or what the fan base thinks, really. I think the expectations may be set differently from our owner, Marinakis. And he's really looking for Forest to establish themselves in the Premier League. If you look at how much money he spent over last year and already this summer, his ambitions are huge. And he's been quoted, jokingly saying that he wants Forest up into European football. But I think deep down inside, that's his ambitions. And I applaud him for it. If you look at the other teams that came up, especially with us last year, they didn't spend as much money as we did. You look at the new teams that have come up this year, they would dream of the amount of money that Forest spent last year. And that's just full credit to Marinakis and his team for the amount of investment he's putting into Forest. They're looking at, rebuilding one of our stands that desperately needs redoing and investing in the infrastructure, the women's football and things like that. So, but overall, all of this depends on Premier League status. So I would say that the majority of the fans will take ideally anything higher than what we finished last year, which was 16th. Some will tell you they're quite happy just staying up and just establishing ourselves. Me personally, when I look at the squad, I do feel is building into a strong squad. We're bringing in World Cup winners, current World Cup winners, and we're looking at a decent team. For me, it just depends how Cooper puts them all together on the pitch and can we get the most out of the quality that we do have. Yes, we are lacking in certain positions, but for me, I think upper ends of the bottom half could be realistic. But ask me again after we got through these horrendous away fixtures that we've got to start the season with, mate, and we played a few teams that we should or shouldn't be beating.
I mean, just on the manager Cooper, I know obviously you personally not a huge fan of him, but just sort of like from a general kind of sort of perspective, does he split the fan base? Because obviously last season he was coming under a lot of pressure. Everyone thought he was going to go. You get the dreaded vote of confidence when the board comes out, and normally that means you're on your bike the next day. But he wasn't. He stayed. You ultimately stayed up, but it was getting very precarious. That situation could maybe happen again. I mean. What's the sort of the view of Cooper at Forest? I mean, do people expect him to see the season out? How is he viewed amongst the fans?
So Cooper will always have a special place in every Forest fan's heart for being the guy who got us up 23 years out of the Premier League. That can never be taken away from him. And with that, he bought a lot of credit and a lot of loyalty from the fan base. I think he's playing way too defensive and he's showing way too much respect to opposition. And his tactics are very negative, in my opinion. But I'll tell you this, I'm speaking as a minority. However, what I will say is that there is a slight mood shift. Not a huge one, but there is. People are starting to get a little frustrated with the play style. It's not necessarily because we go low block against the likes of you, which we will do at the weekend, or Arsenal or Man U. It's like Burnley yesterday in the Cup. We played their B team. And yes, we made changes, but they made 10 changes. We made 7. And we played a 5-back, very negative football, 0 shots on goal. And for me, that's just not acceptable. I don't really care too much about having a massive cup run we did last year. You know, we ended up in the semi-finals, which was fantastic. But for me, it was a chance for him, because something he said that just sticks in my mind at the end of last season was, this isn't the style of football I want to play. And I was looking at yesterday's game, for example, as, okay, doesn't matter if we progress or not. We're not going to get 3 points or lose 3 points from this one. Let me see what you've got. Let me see the style of football you want to play. Swansea fans have always said to us, he's a negative manager. These are his tactics. And it's starting to kind of cement into it. You know, it's starting to, you look at last season, just stay up under any cost. Don't worry about the play style. Don't worry about this. Now you're looking at it. I'll still tell you now, mate, the majority of the fan base will back him 100%. But me looking at it objectively, the play style's not good enough. I really do think we could give most teams in the Premier League a good match, if not beat quite a few of them, if we decided to play a bit more assertive and a bit more, offensive on the pitch. But his job last year was to keep us in the Premier League. He did that. His job this year, established the club on the pitch. And let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think certainly the caliber of player you're attracting now, there's no reason why you shouldn't be playing in a more expansive way. You've got a great goal scorer in a 1 year. You've got a very talented boy in Morgan Gibbs-White. If Brennan Johnson ends up staying, there's ability there. You know, if you get in the likes of Sangare, you've got Andre Santos, our lad as well. You've got World Cup winners at fullback. You know, there's a decent decent basis of a side there which has got quality that doesn't deserve to be playing in as negative a way. Of course, you know, realize that Forest can't be expansive all the time, but certainly don't be as sort of timid as I guess they have been, at times last season, and certainly.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Charlie.
Going into this,
I'm not saying go gun ho.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying, like, go for a mid block instead of a low block. Go for more counter-attacking football. Show some desire on the pitch. Now, again, I'll caveat that by saying I wouldn't expect to see it against the likes of you, against the likes of, you know, the big six, as they're called, and that stuff. I'm fine with that. What I'm talking about is those games with the other teams that are going to end up in and around where we finish. Let's show some assertiveness, and let's show that we are a proper Premier League team and we're not scared of anyone, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the game on the weekend, mate, from a Chelsea perspective, who should we be worried about? Who do we need to sort of keep our eye out for? Obviously, a 1 year, I know he scored twice against Stamford Bridge last season in a 2-2 draw. He's scored 7 games in a row. Sorry. Morgan Gibbs-White's always one to look out for. Apart from those two, they're the obvious. Is there anyone else we should sort of be aware of?
Yeah, 1 year is going to be the number 1 threat. He's red hot. Not only has he gone 7 in a row, he's gone 9 and 7 as well. So he's in a rich vein of scoring form right now. The ones that have impressed me so far, I really like Elanga. He hasn't started him yet, but I'd like to see him start. The pace that kid has on the wing is unreal as well. And if you're playing, if Jono stays, look, we don't know yet what's going to happen. There's massive links with him going to Spurs. But if you got Awoniyi, Elanga, Jono, Morgan Gibbs-White in behind, that's the threat that you guys need to worry about. Will Cooper put all 4 of them on the pitch? I very highly doubt it. Other players that have been really good for us, like Danilo, who was really hot at the end of last year. He's been played a bit deeper and hasn't performed as well at the start of the season so far, but he's out injured for the weekend. And Felipe may be back for this game because we've been missing our 2 best centre-backs. Niakate, for me, is a fantastic centre-back. He's pretty much back. He'll need to worry about his long throw-ins. Both him and Ola Einar have huge throw-ins. It's Delap-like when it comes, if not better. Especially with Niakate, they're nice and flat when he gets them in. And we scored a few goals last season with him. But in general, the team is getting there. It's getting there. It's unfortunate that Santos can't play at the weekend. I would have loved to seen him and what he's about in his first Premier League game for Forest. But yeah, the main threats, to answer your question, they are going to be Awoniyi and Morgan Gibbs-White, really, because I think they will be the two attacking players that are put out there and the rest of the team designed to low block against you. So yeah, just watch out for the counter-attacks. I'd say more so watch out for the counter-attacks rather than specific players outside of those two.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I would have had Forest down as their threats anyway. Like, obviously, going to sit men behind the ball, but they're going to be dangerous on the counter attack with the pace of the likes of Alanga, the threat of Awoniyi. You know, we've got to be careful on the counter attack and got to be careful on set plays. But I think it's going to be very much down to Chelsea to break Forest down. I guess the longer you guys frustrate us, the more of a chance that you're going to have of getting something out of the game. I mean, just from a Chelsea perspective, mate, do you look at our side, you look at coming into this game, do you see anyone where you're like, yeah, we need to be careful? You know, they could cause us real problems. Who stood out for you from a Chelsea perspective, from what you've seen sort of in the opening 3 games?
And Enzo for me. Enzo by a mile. Your whole midfield, and I always say midfield, you know, the game is won and lost in midfield. And you've done the right thing in a way you strengthened. Yes, you've gone crazy with the money you spent, but, you know, spend big and get it returned on the pitch. But Enzo for me is the dictator of your midfield, and I really like his style of play. Caicedo, I think he started, it was interesting how he started in the first game, but he will come good. He's a quality player. I still think you need a number 9. I've been saying it to you for as long as I've known you, and to all my Chelsea mates. You're crying out for an out-and-out 9. In my opinion, it's a shame Nkuku's got injured. I highly rate him. I've seen a lot of him over the last few years. It's good for us. Yeah. It's good for us. I'm not going to lie. But, you know, even your new striker got off the mark against Luton, so that's going to get him. It was Jackson, wasn't it? It's going to do him the world of good, scoring that goal. I feel he needed that goal from the games. I've seen all your games so far, and I felt he just needs a goal to get him going. So I'd rather he'd waited till after Saturday to get his goal. But in general, look, I'll say this. If you'd got yourself a solid out-and-out 9, I think you guys would have closed the gap onto Man City. I could have seen you jumping ahead of the likes of Arsenal, Man U, etc. Will you have the firepower throughout the course of the season to be right up there? I'm not quite so sure, especially with Nkuku being out for quite a while. But I do see you performing way better than last season, and, you know, not looking up for the 40-point line this time, and probably looking more so for the top 4 or 5, depending on what the Champions League allocation is this year for the Premier League.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to be looking upwards. We have to come in the Champions League places with the money that we've spent and the quality of player we've got. So that the pressure's on now. You know, Pochettino's got to deliver, get these players gelling, and you know that we've got to get in those top 4 or 5 spots. Simple as that. To round out, mate, score prediction. We had a 1-1 at the City Ground last year and a 2-2 at Stamford Bridge. Do you fancy Forest to get anything from this game, given your terrible away record doesn't look like it's improving anytime soon? Do you realistically think you can get anything, or do you very much think it's going to be a tough afternoon?
Nope, we're not going to get anything out of this one. As I said, we're becoming too predictable in the way we play away from home. I think teams will start to suss it out. The only chance we have is if we can frustrate you for 20, 25 minutes, catch you on the counter attack. Even then, I think we got enough in us to get a goal. But I think if you guys score early and manage the game better than Arsenal did, Arsenal took their foot off the pedal. So that's something you guys need to be careful of. I think it'll probably end up 3-1 to yourselves. But if one of you gets his 8th goal in a row, I'll kind of take that. That, mate.
Yeah, fair. And the streak can carry on. I think this will be closer than people think. I think we will win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, but it's not going to be as easy as people might expect it. Because I'll go 2-1 Chelsea for a nice win to head into the international break.
The thing I'll say, with this low block football, we don't get tonked much these days. No. So although we may be very limp going forward sometimes because we're too defensive, we're not holding 5 or 6 anymore. I've probably just jinxed it now.
Well, but you improved. I mean, you lost 5-0 at the Emirates last year, 2-1 this year.
Yeah, so exactly.
Maybe not. I mean, I think, but to be fair though, like, there's ways of losing. You know, you don't want to get smashed 5s and 6 away from home. If you're losing 2-1, 3-2, or whatever, yeah, you still lost, but you know, you've given a more respectable account of yourself. So I think that's it's a more positive loss than say a 5-0 is.
Put it this way, mate. We've scored 3 away goals this season. It took us until I think January to get 3 away goals last season. So
well, exactly, mate.
there is improvement.
Put that positive
There is
spin on.
improvement.
Put that positive.
You're just catching me raw today off the Burnley game yesterday. It still hurts a little, so I'm a little more down than I normally would be. But yeah, I still think you guys will win.
Yeah, I hope so as well. But yeah, guys, seems like a good point to round this one out, mate. Thanks so much for your time as always. If the people want to check out where your stuff is, where should they go?
Just on YouTube, Forest Fan TV. Come give us a follow or a subscription, isn't it? These days, what they call it. Yeah, so youtube.com @Forest Fan TV. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us, Charlie.
No problem at all, mate. Guys, that'll be linked in the description, tagged in the title as well. So click on that. Go and show the guys some love over there. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below on this video. Smash a like, subscribe to Chelsea Fan TV, and we'll catch you again in another video soon. Up the Chelsea.